Dewberg a Dewberg, riding the Delu horse, lives on as legend and trivia fact. Horses may change fate, but unprintability keeps us from seeing what horsemanship lacked. Hello and welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic's Gathering. I'm Juliet.
And I'm Tim.
And we're following through on our March Design Challenge, which is Year of the Horse, to design a legendary card with saddle.
Yeah. We have already reviewed about a dozen of these and we got 24 left. So we're only partway through the bumper crop. Maybe done for comedy purposes, maybe done to slightly torture us a little bit. But yeah, we love seeing all these submissions. It's awesome to get so many people submitting cards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got some bonus points there that we'll be taking a look at, which are Casimir Pulaski Day, that the card is or cares about knights, and all men have their appointed time. That's something no horse can change. An effect that lasts indefinitely, like riding a Delu horse.
Yeah. Or we had some discussion last episode about is going to the graveyard indefinite? Is being exiled indefinite? Some other pieces like that.
So our first submission for today is from Eint. It's Bleat, Thought-Wef's Ire.
Oh.
That's 2 generic mana, a green and a white for a 4/3 legendary creature goat mount at rare with whenever Bleat attacks while saddled, create a white Kithkin Knight creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control that are Kithkin and or knights. And it has saddle 3. So the token that's created will be a minimum of a 1/1 because it can see itself as a Kithkin and or a knight.
Yeah, this thing itself is a goat mount, so it's not contributing to the count, but the Kithkin Knight itself will count itself. I guess maybe the naming here, Bleat Thought-Wef's Ire, is that this is a mount that people ride around but is a little grumpy.
Yeah, it's a little curious. So you will want at least 3 power worth of creatures in order to get, what is in my head, a 1/1. But if you go 1-drop Kithkin into 2-drop Kithkin into 3-drop Kithkin into this 4-drop, then, you tap 1 or 2 of your Kithkin the first time and you're making at least a 3/3. If you're able to make a 3/3 or a 4/4, then you're, giving up 3 power on the attack. But yeah, you're getting tokens that then you can use to get the board bigger overall.
Yeah, this is some of the saddle cards we've seen, give you something whenever you attack, but something better if you're saddled. And this is a little more all or nothing, and a reasonably high saddle cost of 3. That's not terrible, but some of them are saddle 1 or 2. So this one is saying, I'm only giving you something if you saddle me. It's a little hard to saddle me, but if you build around me at all, if you have any kind of Kithkin deck, the thing you're getting is pretty good.
Yeah, and I suppose it could be a knight deck rather than a Kithkin deck.
Yeah, that's fun.
That would be an option too. Maybe you're making some of the 2/2 vigilance knight tokens, and maybe also some of the 1/1 various Kithkin soldier tokens and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I love the bargain I'm getting out of this, or maybe put another way. I wonder if sometimes even if I have 3 power on the battlefield, I don't want to be using this card's ability. I don't want to be tapping to saddle it.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it, the floor of this is a 4/3 for 4 mana with, hey, you can always use this other option. But because it has to attack in order to create the token, I guess you are kind of you're giving up the blockers, but you're making a token that could be doing the blocking. So
Hmm.
maybe that is a slightly better sort of thing. But I wonder if I want if I have the creatures on the board, I wanna be using them rather than making this specific token. But I suppose it really is, you know, do you have synergies with Kithkins or knights? Do you have both just those other creatures,
Hmm.
but do you also have the Kithkin knight that gives all knights double strike? In which case, great,
Yeah.
yeah, give me I'd love to be tapping saddle stuff to make a big double striking token or multiple of those in successive turns.
Yeah, this is one of those cards that's like outside of the tribal bonus itself is like quite a solid payoff for that. Like
Mhm.
I kind of need to play, and we saw this with a couple of the cards last week too. I kind of need to play like the protect the president mode with this card. It's like pretty good at attacking, but at 4 mana, attacking on turn 5, it's pretty blockable as a 4/3. So I either need to be protecting it somehow, getting some combat tricks queued up, something like that, something in there. But if I do get rolling, if I'm making a second token or something like that, then this card can probably run away with a game for you. It's maybe not quite on the same level, but it feels a little bit like repeated sources of making little Urza robots, the little
Mhm.
artifacts that like count the number of other artifacts, but maybe not in the like nuclear artifact deck, but just in like a draft deck. Like those Urza robots sometimes are quite good, sometimes are, just 1/1s or 2/2s. And the goat here feels like it's making tokens that are fall in that same place. I might be playing my green white deck in draft, and I might not have many of my Kithkins this game, so I'm making a 1/1 or a 2/2, or I might, like you said earlier, do like 1/2/3 into this, into combat trick, into making a 5/5 every turn. Um, at which point this is quite an amazing card.
I suppose another thing I would think about is, would I want or would a given player want to play this as a commander for a
Oh,
Kithkin
hmm.
and or Knights kind of
Yeah.
deck compared to, uh, I suppose Gaddock Teague or the new from Lore and Eclipse, Brigid that
The
is 3
flip
and
one.
white?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I might like this card more if it was like a 0/4 or a 0/5 or like,
Hmm.
I that kind of protect the president sort of mode as you would say, like, I think more toughness or some keywords that make this more of an issue to block, in combat, something to allow it to stay alive, I think lets me try to live that dream a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, and like, 4/3 is going to be able to deal with and just, like, attack into a 2/2 or things like that, but
Yeah.
especially attacking on turn 5, an average 3/2 or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
5/5 or anything like that is going to be kind of, stomping on this or not stomping on this, but
Yeah.
inhibiting this enough that you're trading this card for one of these little Kithkin constructs
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's like
trading
almost
this
like got a
card.
death trigger. Not quite, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Trading this card plus 3 power of tapping for just one of those tokens,
Mhm.
I think where the bargain comes up short more for me.
Yeah, I think I understand that. I guess for me, this is still a pretty first pickable type rare.
Mm.
This is something that pulls me into two colors, even though it's a gold card. Like I'm happy to go along for the ride. I can see it maybe being a little too limited outside of that draft context, but yeah, I think my first impressions came from draft where I felt really good about this. But as a
Yeah,
commander, yeah, maybe I can't really. I can maybe give it haste one or two ways in a green white deck, but yeah, it's maybe not the legendary side, more just like the fun draft build around rare kind of side.
yeah. And this is a great example of, it depends on what a card is kinda targeted for.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
cards targeted for limited are a totally different thing than, "Hey, this goes in a commander pre-con," as, like, an alternative
yeah,
commander
yeah.
sort of
We,
idea.
we wouldn't hit that level for sure. It's got a little art description here. Did we read that?
No,
Uh,
the art description is, "A Kithkin riding a four-horned goat races towards the camera. Behind them, a small herd of similarly mounted regular goats charge into battle." Springjacks are cool.
yeah,
The various goats that the Kithkin have are great, and getting more of them
Mhm.
involved, I think is a really fun idea.
Yeah, they're little buddies.
The effect lasts indefinitely. We're creating a token.
A
That
token?
seems
Okay.
plausible. And this definitely, cares about knights in
Yeah.
a particular way that seems like it still makes sense for this particularly unique flavor with the Kithkin knight sort of connection.
Yeah, there just happened to be enough, like, maybe it was like a just like a really important one or something, but I just remember Kifkin Knight already existing, I guess. Like, it's a type
Mhm.
that I've already seen.
Kingsville Cavalier is, I think, a classic one in knight decks. That's the knight creatures you control have double strike,
Ah, yeah.
2/2 for
Yep.
4.
Yeah, that's the one.
Clover Knights was really effective in limited. That's the 3
Mhm.
white and a white for flying first strike, 3/3 Kithkin Knight. And then in actual, like, competitive constructed of the era, and, probably still some places today, Knight of Metagrain is 2/2 for white and a white, first strike lifelink
Hmm.
Kithkin Knight. That got
Kinda read
played in, like, control mirrors. This would be a card you would side in, like, weird 5-color control things.
Oh. Yeah, it's kind of the return of White Weenie a little bit too. A little bit White Knight, but, oh, you get lifelink now. Oh, very nice. Thanks for the card. Next up from Kern, we've got, ooh, a double face card here. Galwin Unhorsed Survivor. Is unhorsed a word?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, okay.
You've been, like, literally knocked off your horses to be
Dismounted.
like
Yeah.
in jousting, if you got,
Hmm.
like, hit, you'd be unhorsed. It's usually not good for you. In general, that means somebody's hit you
Yeah.
with something pretty
Yes.
hard, and
Yes.
B, you've fallen. Those
Yeah.
2 things are usually not good.
I just watched some of the Night of Seven Kingdoms, the HBO show, where
Mm,
they got some
mhm.
jousting. Jousting looks rough. But anyhow, Galen here. Galen Unhorsed Survivor, 2 and a white for a 2/3, 3-mana 2/3. For legendary creature Human Knight. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Galwin is tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on each tapped creature you control. And then the backside is Ghouls, Jules, Riderless Warhorse. It's 1 and a green for a 4/3, so 2-mana 4/3. Ghouls doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever Ghouls become saddled, untap it, and it has saddle too. So this is maybe two sides in a way that I can never be out of balance in my mounts and riders deck. I always, if I have too many riders, I can make another mount. If I have too many mounts, I can make another rider.
And so this is a modal DFC at uncommon
Mhm.
with both of these sides I think are kind of playable, if that makes sense. I suppose
Yeah,
both of them want other creatures. And so I'm
yeah.
other than in specifically a like knights and mounts deck where I need to make sure I have that like tick one up of the other to balance out.
Hmm.
I don't know that I, like, instinctively know, "Okay, here are the times when I play this side, and here are the times that I play the other side."
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing it just as a single card, maybe I play Gaelwyn Unhorsed Survivor if I don't have any other creatures because it can grow, but it needs to survive that growing. Ghouls, the 4/3 that doesn't untap, maybe that's a better blocker. I just play down for 1 in a green. I do really like the Ghouls side. 1 in a green for a 4/3, and then, yeah, you can attack with it just fine, but then it needs saddled to get kinda back into attacking form. That feels great flavor for a riderless warhorse as something to use saddle to do that's a little bit different than the rest of our saddling.
The backside of this reminded me of a card from Foundations, Slumbering Cerberus, which is a 4/2
Mm.
for 2. Doesn't untap on its own, and then Morbid, it'll untap. So at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died, untap this. And that card was like pretty fearsome for the cost. If you had some one drops or you were killing things black red style, you could get pretty far with that Cerberus. Gilwin really wants to make sure that there are other creatures getting tapped, other saddling happening, all that kind of stuff. And Ghouls here is really good at making sure that you just have a reason to tap, that you have a creature that can like let you push the advantage, all that kind of stuff. It's a good use of saddled where we get like this kind of like attention grabbing, stat line of 2 mana 4/3. But then, in order to really live the lifestyle, you got to be dedicating creatures to it. You're not going to be that good at blocking because you're tapping extra creatures, and that's pretty fun.
2 other kind of neat things about this. 1, if you have a modal DFC with both sides being legendary creatures, you can potentially put that at much lower rarities without any problem because, hey,
Mm.
if I have 4 of these in my deck and I draw 2, well, I can have
Yeah.
one of them be one and the other one be the other side without having to worry about, like, a legendary downside particularly at all. In addition to the fact that they specifically combo with one another. Just that as a piece of tech, I think is something to keep in mind. The other is if you can put some type of equipment on the ghouls side that has some, like, tap, do something, maybe involved with some of the weird Mirrodin grinding station sort of stuff.
Mm.
Because if you can just get another 2 power onto the board, you can keep untapping ghouls because you can keep saddling. And so
Mm.
maybe there's some engine involved in, like, tap to create a 2/2,
Yeah.
and then you saddle and then
Yeah.
untap. Tap to create a
Okay.
2/2, you saddle to untap, and just keep doing that sequence alongside some sort of, when something enters, dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, yeah. If yeah, maybe there's some way to engine it up, or you just need to notice creatures becoming untapped, like, what is the old merfolk people used to use, like Wave Crasher or something like that?
Sure, yeah. If only Saddle didn't specify other creature, because then you could just keep tapping and untapping. Just like, "Hey, horse,
Mm. Mhm.
physician, heal thyself. Horse, saddle thyself." But it is tap any number of other creatures you control with total power 2 or more.
Yeah, and I guess if it's legendary, you can't have 2 ghouls that are each untapping each other over and over.
Yeah, yeah. Really makes you think.
Yeah. We got some art descriptions on this one too, which
Mhm.
I think is kind of fun. For Gaelwyn, the writer, an unhorsed, muddied knight is surrounded by enemies on a hill. She slashes at them wildly with her sword. In the distance below can be seen her horse, ghouls surrounded. Ghouls art, a lone war horse with no rider surrounded by enemies. He rears at them with terror and wrath in his eyes. On a hill in the distance, we can see Gaelwyn surrounded.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
For all the things that I've said positively about the MDFC, I also think that these feel a little bit like the partner with
Hmm.
kind of battle bond
Sure.
sort of pairs, which might be like, hey, some of those battle bond pairs maybe could be MDFCs rather than partner withs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess these are closer to the battle bond ones because they specifically work really well with each other,
Mhm.
which a lot of those pairs did as well, where you want both of them on the battlefield to really see them happen.
And that you can kind of see either creature from the like other's camera
Mm.
angle,
Mhm.
in a sort of sense.
Oh yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. This cares about knights. The plus one counter, that's an indefinite effect.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah, sure.
yeah, that works out. Thanks for the
As
submission.
indefinite as like a Delu horse thing. Yeah,
Yeah, that is true. If Dealer Horse would just put some plus one counters and a horsemanship counter, that would be the
yeah.
equivalency. Our next submission is from VT Basemat. It's Kufhäuser,
Oh,
which is a legendary enchantment land
oh,
mount, and then in brackets AIN, so mountain. It's a mythic. It has cleave, which explains the brackets. The cleave cost is a single red mana. Cleave, of course, the mechanic from Crimson Vow, with you may cast this spell for its cleave cost. If you do, remove the words in square brackets. So, before we get to the actual effects, this is a legendary enchantment land that can either be a mount or a mountain. If
Hmm.
you just play it as a land, it's a mountain. If you cast it for single red mana, it is not a mountain, it is a mount.
Hmm. Okay, and that's
And
the
then it
only
has the
bracketed text.
yeah, that's the only bracketed text.
Hmm.
Then, as long as Kiffhauser is not a mountain, it has saddle 1. And then when Kiffhauser becomes saddled, it becomes a 2/2 red creature until end of turn. If it's saddled by a knight, instead, it becomes a 2/2 red creature. And not written, but it's implied that this effect lasts indefinitely because that's why it doesn't end until end of turn.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
you
that's
can
the indefinite.
get
Okay.
you
Huh.
can it can become a 2/2 mount once it's saddled, and if the thing saddling it is a knight, then it's a 2/2 forever for a
Yeah.
single red mana. So you can pay a red mana and
Tap at
tap a
night.
knight to get a 2/2.
Yeah, to sort of cycle your land from being a mountain into a It's not a horse, it's just a mount.
Yeah, but if you do pay the red mana, it doesn't actually have a mana producing ability.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because it's, like, no longer a mountain, so it no longer has the mountain ability in it, I guess.
This is more of an MDFC than it is a TDFC, like, this
Yeah,
is
you're kinda choosing,
either
yeah.
a mountain land from your hand, or this is an enchantment that will then, like, turn into a creature. Just one or the other,
Hmm.
but all on a single faced.
Yeah, bonus rules question here. Do you have
Yep.
to be a basic land for your land type to give you a mana ability?
N no, because that's how, like, Blood Crypt is a swamp mountain, and
Oh,
it gets
okay.
its mana abilities directly from,
Oh,
the land type. Same with, I think,
okay.
the more recent
Oh, yeah, the
trio.
add tap black or red for Blood Crypt is in parentheses, it's reminder
Mhm.
text, so yeah, I guess the land type even on a non-basic land, yeah. Huh.
And that's how, like, Dryad Arbor can have an entirely empty text box where
Oh.
all of its abilities are because of things outside of its text box, which is that
Mhm.
it's a creature land forest dryad,
Hmm. It's
and
the
then,
type
like,
that's
the
giving you the
1/1.
mana ability. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so, how if I only play this as a land, if I forget cleaving, whatever, anything else, then this is a mountain with upside for the most part. It's an enchantment, so it can be land destruction via disenchant or something, or a naturalize. But it's like a pretty solid baseline land. And then instead of playing it, I can cast it. And that's the point at which I make my choice. Once I've done that, it's outside of flickering or something. I'm not going back to being a land.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And, you know, you do need something to saddle it in order for the creature to kinda come into being. So, like, this isn't just a a giant arbor that can also be a tutu, but you just have to this isn't just a very cost-effective modal DFC with a basic mountain with no downside on the back. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the legendary and the enchantment part is the downside for the mountain side
Hmm.
of it, and then needing to tap it or needing to tap something else to make this into a creature. I don't know, there's some interesting stuff there.
Is this an existing like myth or something? What is the reference here? Do you know?
I it is both an existing specific myth and an existing general myth.
Oh.
So the Kyffhäuser, specific myth, is part of what is in Stith Thompson's motif index termed as the Kyffhäuser type, aka king asleep in the mountain.
Oh.
Or King Under the Mountain, which I will briefly say. Examples include the legends of King Arthur, Fionn mac
Oh.
Cumaill, Charlemagne, Ogier the Dane, King David, Frederick Barbarossa at Kyffhäuser, Philanto of Taranto, Genghis Khan, Constantine the 11th, Palaiologos, Harjavec Marco, Sebastian of Portugal, and King Matthias.
Is this like
I
TV tropes but for like literary people? What is going
Yes.
on? Okay.
Yeah, this is a thing that people whenever they're like, and the king who made a bunch of changes and, like, died because people die, he's not
Hmm.
dead. He's totally
Oh.
gonna come back. He is because he's a king, he's bigger than
Oh.
whatever.
Bigger than life.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and the stories we tell about him are so incredible, but, oh, yeah, he's not here because he's sleeping under this mountain, and he's gonna come out and his hair's gonna turn white and do all of
Hmm.
these things. I
Okay.
personally would combine this with the sort of legends of the Tamitabako, like the Urashimataro, kind of Japanese
Oh, okay.
folklore story
All
about
right.
the jeweled box, and in general, kind of removing somebody from the stream of normal time and society with the, "Oh, you can
Yeah.
come back later," which includes like a Rip Van Winkle sort of
Oh,
story
okay.
and these sort of things.
Oh, I left
But
for what felt like a day for me, but was like 100 years.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just asleep for this time. Oh, this
Yeah.
time passed differently. And you can see how in kind of the myth making of, nation states and burgeoning nation states and
Hmm.
ethnic groups and various things, how, "Oh, our mythic leader is just asleep and will be coming back," is kind of part of ensuring an enduring sense of identity
Hmm.
through, myth and legend, which is kind of part of the point of myth and legend.
Yeah. I guess going from like Matt's comment here, this is also like, what's the best I can do to make this cleave Mount Mountain joke work? And
Mhm.
they actually went really deep to make that happen. Like
Oh,
they found an
yeah.
existing myth. They worked pretty hard to make this card function. Maybe in the grand tradition of other enchantment lands like Urza Saga, where they had to think really hard about how to make a functional saga land. That was also about Urza.
Yeah.
A very noble attempt. Is this mythical king a 2/2? That's a little weird, but we're working within constraints here.
He's a guy, he's just emerged, he's old
Mm,
now.
that's true.
A 2/2 human is still big for a human, I
Mm,
guess.
okay.
That beats all other normal humans in a combat. He could take
Or
a grizzly bear
humans
face on.
humans in Magic long ago were relatively small. So this guy's power and toughness were locked in early Magic, but he happened to come back in later Magic, and that's why his size seems unfitting.
Yeah, and the idea of, in some ways, a knight can go out and find this legend and bring him back to
Oh.
kind of our reality or
Mhm,
our
mhm.
fold in a way. I think that's a fun kind of extra bonus,
Mm,
oh, yeah, I'm gonna be a knight, I'm gonna go quest, I'm gonna find, this relic or this tomb and, bring back our king under the mountain.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has an indefinite effect, cares about knights, so we're all good on bonus points too.
Thank you, VT Basemat, for a
Yeah.
delightful, submission. VT Basemat says, "Finally, someone fixed the Dryad Arbor rules issues."
Mhm.
Which, I think this does fix some of those, which is like, should a creature land be cast or played? We say, "Hey, it's either only cast
Mm,
or
mm.
only played." And I don't think anyone would look at this and go, "Oh, sorry, that's just a basic mountain," and then it's like a surprise blocker. Like, that can't happen.
Yeah. We've been getting a little bit more of I think the space of like, we've had manlands for a while now, but now we're starting to get like permanent manlands. Like we just got one previewed for the new Strixhaven, Great Hall of the Biblioplex that, does some stuff as a normal land would, and then for 5 mana just permanently becomes a wizard. I think that kind of space is pretty fun. The reactivating your manland turn after turn after turn is a little kind of tedious game wise. But if it's just a one time, oh, I'm emerging out and I'm becoming a dude. Uh, that I like that. I think that's a fun place to play. And yeah, getting a 2/2 out of your land that was going to be nothing, also great.
Yeah. I think the sort of that type of card that I often think about would be Gargoyle Castle, which I think was first
Hmm.
printed in like Magic 2010. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
a long time ago now, but it used to be modern,
Yeah.
which is a spend 5 colors mana and you sacrifice the land to create
To get a token.
like a creature
Hmm.
token. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that case, a 3/4 gargoyle artifact creature with flying.
Yeah.
So the modern and you still keep the land around, I think is a kind of new
Yeah.
or
I don't
or
know
or
which one I
more
like better.
recent thing.
That's an interesting idea. The token's kind of nice. Hmm. Yeah. More to think about, I guess.
Mhm.
But we got more cards to review, and next up is from Andrew, and that's Aegis Hoof, Valorous Soul. It's 2 blue white for a 2/4, 4 mana 2/4. Legendary creature Horse Mount at rare. It has Vigilance. Whenever a creature saddles Aegis Hoof, if it doesn't have a shield counter, put a shield counter on it. It is a knight in addition to its other types for as long as it has a shield counter. And saddle 2. So the creature saddling, the rider is the one that gets the shield counter, it looks like.
Okay. Whenever a creature saddles Aegis Hoof, if it doesn't have a shield counter, put a shield counter on it. It is so this is a really cool horse that makes the things that ride it into
Yeah.
knights.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like the
I think
getting the magic sword that turns you into a super soldier kind of cartoon thing.
the flavor text here indicates any stable hand can tame a horse. You don't become a true knight until you let a beast tame you back. So
Hmm.
the horse is like, no, you need to hold your shield up better. Oh no, you need to look forward. Have better posture while you're riding.
This doesn't have like an attack thing on it. So this is almost like a depot. This is an armory where all my creatures can walk by, saddle, hang out with the horse for a little while, and then get their shield counter. And Aegisuf could even, knight up 3 people in one turn as long as you're willing to go kind of shields down.
Yeah.
Or not shields down. That's confusing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
As long as you're willing to tap your
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah.
And you could even have creatures that maybe you're like kind of like cycling them in and out of like blocking.
Mm.
If you have kind of 2 creatures and you just need to chump block one really big creature on your opponent's side, you can just keep being like, I'm gonna put the untapped one with a shield counter while I'm tapping the other one to get a fresh shield counter, and then just gonna keep swapping them back and forth to with Aegis Hoof protecting one at a time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of blocking once you get this going. Maybe kind of like the goat we talked about. You're a little vulnerable right when you start to do this process, but then once you do that, you got a lot of shield counters to work with. Shield counters prevent you from, dying, so you got a lot of blocking you can do, a lot of attacking you can do and you can get reknighted afterward. So yeah, you can get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. You could also be protecting your creatures for a wrath in this way.
Yeah. Yep.
Could be fun.
Hmm.
And because of the night element, you could definitely be engaging with some just night synergies. That seems very possible, very plausible.
Yeah. How would an enchantment? This kind of reminds me of our old Castmire rooms of like,
Mhm.
how would an enchantment where creatures can just like go and visit this and get a shield counter at sorcery speed? Like the creatureness of Aegis Hoof is maybe a liability in some ways because it's a little easier to kill than like an enchantment or something or an artifact. But I sort of have this resource on my turn. I can put shield counters on creatures by tapping them. That feels like it would be a really potent thing in a medium to longer game. And then, like you said, you can even get aggro with board wipes. You can shield up your guys and then board wipe. Turn 4, play this. Turn 5, shield up all your other guys, board wipe. You've got 4 creatures. You've got 2 or 3 creatures on the battlefield. Your opponent has none.
And
Hmm.
definitely if you have, survival or inspired or other
Hmm.
kind of synergies with
With
that
tapping and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that naturally works pretty well with this sort of saddling. I like this. I like how vigilance kind of, because Aegiswolf doesn't have a when Aegiswolf attacks while saddled,
Yeah.
put stuff everything, but it's like, hey, is there a safe attack or is there
Yeah.
something that looks like a safe attack? Sure, Aegiswolf isn't going to hold back even if the
Yeah.
other creatures, and because it has vigilance, then it's like, yeah, I can feel slightly more comfortable tapping a bunch of my creatures to give
Yeah.
them the shields because Aegiswolf can, like, still engage in combat on your turn and be able to be a blocker for your next turn. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, this feels like it's kind of breaking what Saddle is in some ways, or
Mhm,
mutating it, like making a funny version of Saddle.
mhm.
But I think the effect is like strong enough that this, I can see just throwing this in any blue-white creature-y commander deck because the effect is so powerful.
Yeah,
You can get so much utility out of it.
and I could also see this in either, like, an Eldraine sort of set or
Hmm.
some of the other planes that have, like, night-focused sort of things.
Hmm.
I mean, you could even make this on Bant. Of course, it wouldn't be a horse there, it'd be a cat, a weird cat horse because of the Leotaus that they have there.
Hmm.
But I think as far as that goes, like, the flavor is real intuitive as to what the thing's doing. It's doing something novel with Saddle, and I really like the rate for all of the parts of the card together. Andrew says, "I have no idea how to cost or stat a saddle creature. I think you did a pretty good job.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
this pretty hits it well."
Kind of indefinite with the shield counter. Is a shield counter more or less indefinite than a +1/+1 counter?
It is much less indefinite because
Okay.
the opponent every deck an
Hmm.
opponent has some way of removing a shield counter. I suppose unless it's literally mill,
Hmm.
but, like, every deck should have some way of doing damage of some level or destroying at some level a creature. Even just another creature can turn off a shield counter.
Hmm.
But I think it is a knight in addition to its other types for as long as it has a shield counter. It's like, well, that's a that is indefinite in the sense of it doesn't have a prescribed ending time period, just
Hmm.
a condition under which it might end.
Hmm. All right. Next up.
This is from Kumrak. This mission is Sir Goldfeather.
Oh.
It's 3 generic mana, a red and a white for a 4/4 for 5 mana at legendary 4/4 for 5 mana. It's a legendary creature, Bird Mount Knight. It's
Hmm.
a rare with Rained, which says when
Oh.
this creature attacks while saddled, if total power used to saddle it is double the required power, it becomes saddled indefinitely.
Oh.
Okay. And Vigilance and Haste on this 4/4. When Sir Goldfeather attacks while saddled for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase,
Oh.
there is an additional combat phase. And then it has saddle 5. So the reigned total would be 10. You need to
Hmm.
use 10 power worth of other creatures to saddle this.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we're kind of showing off two different ideas then in this card. One of which is like they get get an extra combat, get some extra attacks in, and then we're also showing off this reigned idea. I tend to think of the extra combat stuff as being best when it's a big surprise, and so reigned on this specific card is like so far into the win more zone that
Mhm.
it's a little hard to expect to want to reign this particular card unless you're just victory lapping your opponents or something. But reigned as a general idea is pretty cool, like permanently saddling something, kind of extra taming something instead of having to ride it and hit it with a crop or whatever. Now it's just my buddy. All that stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah. Specifically because you would need to be this has 4 power, and then you would need to have 10 other power on the battlefield and not just want to, like, attack with 2 combat phases. Like, one where you're
Hmm.
attacking with, say, 5 power that you use to saddle this, and then 5 other power plus the 4 power of Sir Goldfeather. So I've got 9 power in my first attack phase, and then 14 power to attack in my second combat phase. To instead want to reign this, like, I feel like I'm probably winning the game. I suppose, if I have multiple opponents or in general I need to
Hmm.
be dealing more than 19 or 25 life,
Yeah.
but I think you are kind of in win more territory pretty squarely there, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's a fun card. It's appealing.
Mhm,
I guess maybe if you're thinking of your mount as a commander, it's kind of fun to imagine ways to allow mounts to stay saddled, because
mhm.
then it's like more of the identity of your deck than vigilance and haste on a card like this. Kind of lowers a lot of the downside of saddling it up. The saddle 5, we talked about high saddle costs before, that as being like a fun way to convey how difficult it is to control this creature. It's a fun card, appealing card. People would read it. They'd want to put it in decks. They'd find homes for it. If we saw reigned in a set, would we see this like on all of the mounts in that set? Would we see just like 5 reigned extra legendary mounts? What do you think we'd use that keyword for?
I think we would, at least the thing that I would really try to do would be to fit saddle into reigned in the way that, like, equip is inside reconfigure
Hmm.
for the reconfigure equipment creatures, as far as that sort of
Hmm.
like when one keyword requires another in that very specific way, to instead, like, lump it. So it'd be like rein and saddle 5 or like,
Hmm.
there's some sort of thing, so it can be one chunk of reminder text.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I do think I would say, "Hey, we're bringing reined in." And what's so funny, like, because of how saddle is compared to crew for vehicles, saddle is like, what if your vehicle was a creature
Hmm.
already, most,
Hmm.
kind of permanently and didn't need to have this every turn thing, but you have an every turn option instead. And then reined is like, what if your saddling or crewing was permanent, so you didn't have to do the every turn element?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and so part of me is like, but isn't saddling we've seen a lot of ways where saddling is, like, the fun of it, or, like,
Yeah.
the point of it, and so Rain would say, "No, we really are gonna have attack while saddled as the dominant, like, form of interaction and not explore some of these other things for what happens when you're saddling or anything else."
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
is
rain doesn't
tricky.
solve a problem with this card specifically in my mind,
Mhm.
but is a cool idea. Yeah.
I if this is again, if this was a digital card game or something,
Hmm.
and then you could have other creatures that are like, "Hey, when this saddles a creature, rein it."
Hmm.
And we know that rain always means that
Super saddle.
that
Yeah.
creature is perma-saddled.
Mhm.
Then you're like, "Cool. I this makes sense." Have stuff where, "Hey, when this is rain or when this is saddled by a knight, rain it." Great.
Hmm.
Here's
Hmm.
when this is saddled by a creature
Hmm.
with toughness 4 or greater. Okay, cool. I can see how you're hitting the saddle requirements and then doing it. Having
Yeah.
rain specifically be double power, I think I can see
Hmm.
how you would arrive at that, but I think I would probably deploy rain in a different way if I was going to be trying to do a perma-saddled keyword in a set.
Yeah. I guess you also, even if you combine them into one thing, rain and saddle, like you're suggesting, if you still have the overall shape of saddled cards where they also have like a 3 or 4 line ability to go with their
Mhm,
saddledness,
mhm,
you're signing up for a lot of words on cards.
absolutely.
Uh, yeah.
Very briefly, how do you feel about a 4/4 vigilance haste? What is the combo of vigilance haste worth
Hmm.
to you in terms of card stats without other types of evasion?
If it was complete, like, are we saying just in general with other abilities attached, or as like a French vanilla?
Yeah, kind of as a French vanilla because if you don't saddle this at all, if you don't have
Yeah.
5 other power, this is a
Yeah.
4/4, you if you place on turn 5, you might not have 5 other power if you haven't, like, curved out a bunch, and so
I,
at
I,
5 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance Haste, that's definitely not nothing,
yeah.
but
The fourth toughness means that probably a third, a half the time that this, just naively, I just slam this on the table. I've got like a common or uncommon version of this card that doesn't have all the other abilities. I
uh-huh,
just slam this on the table. It's going to productively attack. If I'm playing against like a flyer deck or I'm playing against a deck that has a slow start, I have a decent shot of getting an attack in. And if my opponent's being really aggressive, they don't have a lot of blockers. I get my attack in and I'm also blocking. So a decent amount of the time I'm happy playing the 5 mana 4/4 Vigi Haste. I think I'm going to get something good out of it. And then the baseline is, it's never that bad on defense. It's never that bad. It's certainly not that bad at top deck. Anything 5+ is always a slight liability in limited. Like these days, we kind of want our cards to be a little cheaper unless they have a big impact. But yeah, Vigilance Haste is a nice combo in a variety of matchups.
and this is a knight, and it definitely has a become saddle indefinitely, that's an effect that lasts indefinitely. Hits both of the bonus points.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for the card. Next up, we've got Larson's card, and it's called Clarion Guide of Thanes, 2 green white for a 3/4. So 4 mana 3/4. Legendary creature horse mount at rare. It has trample, and whenever Clarion attacks while saddled, create a tapped token copy of target plains or forest you control. Then, if Clarion was saddled by a knight this turn, untap up to 3 lands you control. Wow. Saddle 2.
Wow.
We got that extra toughness that you wanted on the goat, but we gave up a
Mhm.
point of power. So we got a 3/4. A 3/4 a little easier to attack on its own. One less saddle cost than the goat. You feeling better about this one?
Yeah, I think so. I like the lower power, higher toughness. I like the lower saddle cost.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of those things work well for me, and this as a mana producer is, I think, kind of fun.
Yeah.
You're making long-term mana out of the tap token, and you're making, like, short-term burst mana out of the untap up to 3 lands,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which that can be I guess it's a tap token, so yeah, that's definitely thinking about the long term. Um, yeah, I think this makes sense. I am also I I don't think there's anything wrong with it being green white. I definitely think there's quite a lot of green to this in general by making land tokens, untapping the
Mm,
lands, having
yeah.
trample, like all of those parts feel quite green to me.
It's
Yeah.
mostly just the word knight that makes this partly white.
Mhm.
Like if this was saddled at all, or if this was saddled by a human or something like an elf, then it would be fully a green card.
Yeah.
I think like the 4 mana single land ramp is like such a sad thing some of the time, but this gives you like that's the fallback on this card. The fallback is that it's just making you a little bit of extra mana for the extra late game.
Mhm.
The main plan of this is that I'll have a night either before I play Clarion or right after I play Clarion. And then I get to saddle this, get 3 of my lands back, play another night, play another, removal spell, play something else. If we're talking about like, the protect the king kind of stuff, like this also frees up your mana for combat tricks and other things. So you have that extra mana to do stuff with right now, as long as you're making this combination of a knight plus other stuff deck.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's effective because of that. If I'm playing my knight deck, I kind of want to be committing to the board as many turns as I can. That means I can't do the normal commander thing of knocking out like a cultivate in there, or a ramping growth or something to get my mana really flowing like a green deck wants. So this says, hey, you get to do both as long as you're playing with knights. You get to both get your green ramp commander stuff that you have to do eventually to play your huge plays. But in the meantime, you get to keep committing to the board, keep attacking, keep making stuff happen.
Yeah. Years and years before Wilderness Reclamation was ever printed, we
Oh, there you
did
go.
used to use sort of Feast and Famine
Hmm.
to have enough lands untapped to be able to, like, cast Cryptic Command.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sort of. I think that might still be the number one sword. I'm not sure. Is there a more top sword of?
I'm sure one of the ones they've printed that I have not paid attention to
Hmm.
is gonna be, oh, don't you know this one in Legacy is just
Hmm.
incredibly the most.
Yeah, it
Okay.
looks like the only one that's close is Hearth and Home, which is a different ramping one. It ramping growths and flickers something. Uh,
Right, right.
yeah,
Is that first in Modern Horizons? Is that the Yeah, great. Gotta love it.
yeah. But
That makes
yeah, I think
sense.
that your original, your Feast and Famine, is still the king.
Realistically, I mean, that did come out in Scars of Mirrodin Block. The original is sort of Fire and Ice, which
Yeah,
is also quite a bit of a house, if, less overwhelming of one.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, looking back at Clarion here, I like, you know, we've seen a few different flavors for horse, which helps out knights rather than
Hmm.
like horse that requires knights. Is like, hey, the horse helps them out. And I think
Mhm.
this makes sense. The horse is helping guide these knights to these new or different lands. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's a token copy of a thing you've got. Sometimes it's like, oh, let me untap all of these vistas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is more in like the general, I guess, commander. I don't know, pattern than some of these
Mhm.
other cards that feel kind of commandery because they're legends and you're thinking about building around them or whatever. But just having a bunch of mana around is like such a key thing for especially like white decks in Commander. Like I get
Mhm.
to untap 3 lands. Maybe I just use those lands to hold up my Teferi's Protection or one of the, we've had a bunch of cards like Teferi's Protection that, protect your whole team, phase them all out, make them indestructible, something like that. So
Mhm.
having that extra mana is going to be important for my night deck because I need to be on the board. I need to protect my board from board wipes. I need to, you know, protect myself from removal spells, and I need mana to do that. So,
I do really like how saddle and like the 2 power part and the knight clause within the
mm,
saddle attack
yeah.
together make this something where, okay, great, it's a 4 mana or a mana value 4 card that can accelerate my ramping sub. So,
Mhm.
oh, I just want to do a 2-drop mana rock into this. It's like, well, you kind of want some of your early mana producers to be creatures rather than just a generic mana rock or signet or something like that, because they can then also help saddle in that way. And so that, I think, both requires and pays off a different sort of deck construction in that space, which I think is a 2 thumbs up, strong positive.
Yeah.
Yep, and I wanna also say strong positive. I know last year's Mocktober, I wanna say Larson did all, like, Naya cards to
Oh,
try designing more cards outside of the classic Larson's,
Demir. Yeah.
Dimir, and
Uh-huh.
this is a great, green-white submission in that Naya
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Our next submission is from Mothyog. It is Balerion the Black Dread. For
Mm.
3 generic mana, a black and a black. That's 5 mana for a legendary creature. 5/5 dragon mount at rare with flying and trample. And when Balerion enters, if you spend red this turn or control a mountain, he gains haste until end of turn.
Hmm.
Whenever Balerion attacks, exile the top card of defending player's library face down. While exiled, you may look at and cast that card, and mana of any type can be sent to do so. Then, if Balerion is saddled, you may cast a card exiled with him without paying its mana cost.
Mm.
It has 2 saddle abilities, Saddle 3 or Saddle Knight. Tap a knight
Mm.
you control. This amount becomes saddled until end of turn. Saddle only as a sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
5 mana, 5/5 flyer. Has haste if you have mountains or red mana. So we're already, in terms of like vanilla combat power or whatever, we're already there. And then when it attacks, no matter what, you're going to like kind of Gaunty them. So you're
Mhm.
going to be able to like grab a card from the top of their library, look at that card. You can cast it. So if it's a land, you just whiff, but that's cool. You already attack it with a 5/5 flyer.
Mhm.
If you saddled them, you can instead free cast it. So, the Gonti, I have to pay for the card, draw a card from the opponent's deck kind of thing. I might get a free cast if I want, if I have like basically leftover creatures, I guess is how I'm feeling about it. If I don't feel like blocking, if I don't need to block, or if I just have way too many creatures out, I get to saddle on the way right before I attack and then get a free cast instead of a paid cast. I guess with haste, paying whether you pay or not matters more. I was thinking originally when I was reading this, I was thinking without haste, like, oh, I play
Mhm.
this on turn 5, I attack on turn 6. I've got mana available. I don't need the free cast that badly on turn 6. But on turn 5, it gives you a chance of a super devastating play.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the free cast, you do need to commit before combat, whether or not you
Hmm.
wanna be free casting this turn,
Yes.
but if I'm able to grab a, I don't know, 8 mana card or something with Balerion when I attack you this turn, if Balerion is still on the battlefield next turn, then I can be
Hmm.
like, "Okay, I'm for sure saddling and then attacking, and now I
Hmm.
can free cast, one
Mhm.
of the cards." And so you do need to commit to that because it's part of the attack trigger and the saddling has to be previous to combat. It's not a, like, when saddled you can do, it's when attack if saddled.
Hmm.
So I think that's interesting. I do think for the haste, component, Malthaog has a little bit running, behind, their kind of design idea about, like, hey, semi-haste if you can prove you're red. In this
Hmm.
case, I do think it could just be if you spent red to cast Balerion, because if
Hmm.
you control a mountain or you spent red this turn, it's like, I suppose you could want to be spending that red mana on something else, but I would just say, if you have a mountain, tap it to, or if you have a swamp mountain, or, like, if you have a thing that is
Hmm.
partially mountain, tap it to spend the red on Valeria, and we can just get the haste that way.
Yeah. I was wondering if it would make it easier to know this was coming if it was like 3, a black red hybrid and a black or something.
Mhm.
Maybe that would be easier to cast. So, and we're not trying to do that, but that would signal, hey, this is a little bit red. And then the text would spell out why that matters. Yeah. I guess it's a little bit like anger or something like that. Like, hey, if
Mhm.
anger's in your graveyard and you control a mountain, then you get haste on everything.
Mhm.
Maybe you control a mountain. Maybe Mathiag is thinking that that's a common enough concept, at least on the commander side, that
Sure.
it's going to be easy, easy for people to skim, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the higher saddle 3 here because it makes it more likely that you'll want to use the Saddle Knight to tap,
Hmm.
I don't know, I think was it Adun Oakenshield? It's like a 0/4
Our
knight
Jund
or
Knight
something.
from Legends. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
there you go.
and hey, that works because that is a knight. You don't have to worry about the power there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Most knights, like we talked
mhm.
about, yeah, a lot of them are going to have the power, but maybe some of them don't. Yeah. Uh,
I think the Gauntying the opponent's, like, top card, I think that works as indefinitely, like, you can cast that,
hmm.
somewhat
Okay.
indefinitely. It doesn't have a short-term borrowing impulse sort of idea tied to it,
Yeah, yeah. I guess
and
if I delete all the saddle related stuff off this card, I already
mhm,
have like a level card, I would say.
mhm,
Like just the I get to Gonti every turn and I have a giant flying haste creature.
mhm.
So I'm kind of piling on even more good stuff. Oh, you're too generous for me right now. Oh, what am I going to do with all these cards I'm casting?
While there definitely are plenty of mono black dragons, there aren't infinite numbers of
Hmm.
those, and so I think anytime there's another, like, introduction to that fold, especially if it is one with a competitive rate or upside. I think that there's like a subset of players for whom that is a great
Yeah.
new addition to my mono black or blue black or here's my white black dragon stack,
Yeah.
that there are those spaces.
There are only a couple really that I think of. I think Skitherix is maybe the most famous. The Kamigawa ones like Kokusho.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess your boy
Currently,
Xenosuke Galvis turns into a
uh-huh,
black dragon.
everyone's favorite Skaven. Um, is it no, I'm getting confused. The all the Final Fantasy 14 guys are confusing for me. But I'm thinking of Neros rather than Xenos, maybe? I
Oh,
don't know. Anyways, there are 26 mono black dragons currently, and
hmm.
I would say they range in playability or kind of would you want to play them in an average kind of, commander sort of deck.
Yeah, the
So that is
memorability maybe is another word for it.
mhm, mhm. And so I would say this is not like breaking the mold sort of thing, but this is, on the very positive edge, like the Kamigawa, um, or like the new, Kamigawa, is it Junji?
Yeah,
The Midnight Sky? Yeah.
that's a tough one to play against. I've played against that one.
Yeah. And I think that and Balerion would be a great, like, yeah, here are my and Skithrix. Here's these are gonna
Yeah.
dragons are gonna mess with you in really different ways, but
A
here's
portion of the
my
dragon fandom wants their dragons to be super evil.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, yeah.
And apparently this is a card or sorry, a character from, the Song of Ice and Fire universe.
Oh, is it like one of the mega ones from the prequel stuff? Oh, okay.
That I don't know.
Mm,
You could make a double dactyl out of his name, though, much like you can
a double dactyl.
most yeah, okay, so double dactyl I'll be very fast. Double dactyls are a, famous type of poem
Okay.
that when people are trying to learn poetry, I almost always recommend just hang out and make double dactyls for a while
Okay.
and just, like, pick a fandom or like, a media property you're interested in. Dactyls are, they're called a dactyl because, like, a pterodactyl, it's like fingers. Dactyl is like your knuckles. It's like long, short, short, long, short, short.
Oh.
And I all Game of not all, but almost all the Game of Thrones characters have these, like, funny dactyl-based, rhythms in their names, and so
Oh.
you would be like, "What are the first line?" And then the second line would go, "Blackdread Balerion," or
Oh.
"Stannis Baratheon,"
Hmm.
and they all follow that sort of thing, and then you try to find other words that are 6 syllables long.
Hmm. I found like a visual guide. Balerion is by far the biggest of the dragons, and yeah,
That's
he is
great.
from the prequel stuff. He could probably eat some of the other dragons whole. He's so large. And this card feels like it has a large impact on the battlefield, so we're doing him justice. You think we'll get Game of Thrones Magic cards?
Yeah, yes, yeah, uh-huh.
Feels
I
like a,
have
a D&D level compatibility with Magic.
and any, like, qualms about, like, "Oh, there are elements that wouldn't match up with Magic." Well, the first Universes Beyond property was The
Yeah,
Walking Dead.
Negan. Yeah,
So we've
yeah, already crossed that one.
I I
Alrighty.
think someday in the future, we'll do a double dactyl Magic card challenge, and that will be,
Oh,
uh
okay. Yeah, sounds like a bonus point.
Our next submission is from Cord.
Chord.
Oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a multi-continuity chord submission here. I'm clicking through. See also a submission from February of last year and May of last year. But we'll start with the card itself, and then maybe we'll dive into some of the other ones as we get to it. This card from Chord is Springhoof, the Protector, 6 colorless mana for a 6/6. Legendary artifact creature, toy, horse, mount. So just kind of like good, or like kind of solid stats, just as a base. It has Prototype, which is from Brothers War, and you can do that for a 2 and a blue for a 2/2. So you can have a 6 mana 6/6 or a 2 and a blue for a 2/2, 3 mana 2/2. It has a couple abilities here. Knights you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. Oh, okay. When this creature attacks while saddled, target junk you control becomes a 1/1 toy knight in addition to its other types. It has saddle 2, and it has daytime playmate. You may have 2 commanders if the other has nighttime playmate. These are in kind of like a child fairy sort of haunted household kind of
I think
flavor in
haunted
there.
toys
Yeah,
as a broad sort of idea. I think that the toy creature type has some
yeah, yeah,
continuity and focus across these different designs, and each of the designs has either daytime playmate or nighttime playmate. So they would be in those sort of commander optional pairs, like the doctor cards or things like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they
Yeah.
maybe go well together when you play them like that.
So
Um,
this is a 6 mana 6/6 with a Great Lord effect for other knights that you'd have,
mhm.
that you can, even if you have a 1/1 knight, it can saddle the 2
Oh, yeah,
because
that's
it
true.
gets +1/+1,
Mhm,
and then when this creature attacks while saddled, you really do wanna have junk because then you can make the 1/1s into 2/2s, which can then keep saddling
mhm.
Springhoof, so you really only need 1 creature to kick this off, and then it can kind of feed itself, as long as you
Yeah,
can keep putting junk on the board.
yeah. Junk are kind of like clues, but they're sort of like exile draw, so you only get them for a turn. But you can build up a bunch of junk, and this is saying like, hey, you're going to use that junk to make little buddies. I'm going to have a bunch of miscreants running around that I built out of junk, which I think is resonant with the sort of like haunted toy flavor. The piece together toy crawling out from the darkness is um, I don't know, at least familiar to me.
Uh-huh. The prototype here, I think, is kind of interesting because 2 in a blue and 6 generic mana are both pretty castable, and this, like, 2/2 for 3 mana that gives you a pretty strong lord ability for this
Mhm,
isn't a knight, it's a toy horse mount, but knights you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. Obviously, your
mhm,
opponent can target this instead, but, like,
mhm.
2 and a blue for that is, I think, a pretty good rate. In addition to, you can still be saddling it at its lower in its prototype mode to be able to get the 1/1s that become 2/2s and everything. Yeah, as long as you can protect this, the big reason that you'd want to cast it for the larger amount is
Mm.
for that larger toughness probably, so that you can attack with this more often and make more toy knights.
Mhm. Yeah, the it's I think both have, unless I have the junk stuff coming
Mhm.
online, both halves of these are a little, I don't know, maybe not quite commander level yet. I guess partly because it's a double commander, right? I have a partner, I have a daytime
Sure,
playmate
mhm.
to go with it. But if I'm just kind of looking at it on its own, pumping my knights in blue is not exactly what I'm trying to do, and then the 6 beta version is definitely not what I'm trying to do in commander. Not to say that this card doesn't have utility, it just has utility once the junk stuff is online. I feel like once the junk, turning junk into little buddies, now I'm making a card work.
One of the nighttime playmate, I think, other cards has a junk creation ability.
Oh,
So,
okay.
like,
Yeah.
you'd want to mix and match your junk creation and your junk use
Hmm.
kind of commanders
Mhm.
together
Mhm.
potentially, which I think makes sense in a taking things and turning them to junk, turning junk into toys, turning toys into better toys. Like that
Hmm.
kind of makes sense for a weird night or a weird toy little set.
Yeah, I think we saw a little bit of that with the what were they? The Stranger Things cards where there's like a bunch of partner friends forever kind of stuff. And then those cards within each other, you could kind of recombine them in different ways. They all kind of cared about a lot of them cared about clues or sacrificing artifacts and stuff like that. So you had different ways of mixing them together. And maybe we could follow a similar, plan, a similar blueprint for these daytime and nighttime playmates, where I can combine them in just enough ways that I get some customizability.
Yeah. Fun card, fun submission.
Yeah,
You're creating a token which lasts mostly indefinitely because it's a token giving
where
a
you're
an
changing a
overall
token.
buff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
changing something is Delu Horse level.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
That's a good point. Target junk you control becomes a 1/1 toy
yeah.
knight. Yeah, you're right. 100%. Unmarked change is most indefinite. Can't even remove counters to stop it.
Hmm.
And you can't target it to be like, "Turn back." So because it'll have hexproof.
Yeah,
Yeah, great. Thanks for
yeah.
the
Thank you.
submission. Our next submission is from Auxiliary Otter.
Hmm.
It's Brannock, Warhoof Paragon. For a single white mana, it's a 1/2 legendary creature horse mount at uncommon. Brannock has indestructible as long as you
Mm.
control a knight. Whenever Brannock becomes saddled for the first time, for the first time, it gains this creature gets +1/+0 for each other creature you control. And it
Ah.
has saddle 3.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it's definitely a sneaky Delu Horse mode when it becomes saddle for the first time. I think we would expect when it becomes saddled for the first time each turn.
Mhm.
But this is not for the first time each turn. This is the first time you saddle this, it now has this ability until, it dies or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, for each other creature you control. So probably at least one power. And if you don't have, you need to saddle 3. So this is a little tough for you to be able to do on turn 2. To get your 1 mana 2/2 that you'd love to have.
Mhm.
Um, but once it's turn 3 or 4, my knights start arriving because they're bigger. They're 3 or 4 mana. Then I've got this indestructible attacker or blocker as long as I can keep my knight around.
Yeah. I think this if you play a 3 power knight on turn 3, this can then attack on turn 3 as a 3 power or more
Hmm.
indestructible creature. And I think that's kind of the rate. Or if you draw this 1 drop on turn 1, well, it's still a 1/2 that can grow into bigger things. If you draw this 1 drop on turn 6, okay, it almost certainly will be, like, much more than a 1/2. It
Mm.
might be a
Hmm.
4/2 or
Hmm.
something, and it might be a 4/2 indestructible. It might be a 8/2 indestructible, depending on how you're building your deck.
Hmm.
And that's all still, even if you are tapping stuff to saddle it, it's really just 1 generic mana. There's no extra mana cost to get these extra scaling effects the way you might with, like, I don't know, a leveler or a pseudo leveler where you're paying this extra mana late in the game. Instead, it's always still just 1 mana.
Yeah, it's like a scaling power, but not scaling toughness. But if you have knights, then it's indestructible. That makes it like both good as an attacker or a blocker, unless your opponent like thinks you're relying on it too much, and then they attack with a bunch of stuff, and then murder the knight, and then the
Mhm,
horse also dies. So there's a chance that like your opponent can use the knowledge that they have against you, but in exchange you get like quite a good deal. Like this card overall is a solid deal, very playable. The like permanent saddle is kind of a cool thing. And the permanent saddle isn't really dependent on anything besides having like a 3 power creature at some point. Um, or 3 power worth of creatures at some point. Uh, so you get a really solid deal for your 1 mana, but not an insane deal, assuming your opponent at some point has some removal for somebody. If your opponent has no removal, if they're just like the it's 18 creature green deck, then they're in some trouble with Brannock. Brannock's not letting anybody by.
This makes me want to play it in, like, Convoke style decks where, hey, just being a
Hmm.
1 drop also helps with kind of curving out into your Convoke things,
Mm-hmm.
but this also plays nicely alongside have a bunch of token creatures or have a bunch of little creatures or creatures that can recur themselves and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get both the saddling and get the most out of the +1/+0 for each creature you control. And playing n being a 1 drop that plays neatly in Convoke style decks without needing to be Convoke itself, I think
Mm.
is pretty neat, and also that kinda wants to attack itself potentially rather than being,
Mm-hmm.
just an enabler. This is a kind of payoff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really solid card. I think it hits the Delu Horus bonus point as squarely as anybody that we've seen so far. Like or
Mhm.
the to me the spirit of that rule or something. Like this is an indefinite thing that's not usually indefinite that you can grok like once you notice it it's like pretty straightforward, but you have to almost read the card out loud to notice it, which I think is
Mhm.
in the Delu Horus zone like quite squarely.
Yeah.
And a lens that we haven't been able to say a lot of these cards pass. Like, would this be like a really oddball commander? Hell yeah, it would. Because I can. What can I do? I can give it double strike, and I can be hitting people for 7 twice with my indestructible commander. Because I just
Mhm.
like sprayed a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, so I can get some commander damage going. I can have a real kind of like cool and offbeat commander deck with this as well.
Yeah. That sounds really fun. Like, I'm going to
My
my
one
war
mana commander.
hooves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Exile my creature. Well, guess what? It only cost me 3 to get it back down. So, yeah, it functions there too.
Very fun.
All right, just 2 left. Our second to last one here is from James Dalton Bell. It's called Thunder Horse for black, red, green. 3 mana for a 6/1. I wonder if we know what this is going to be. Legendary creature, Elemental Horse Mount at rare. There's Trample and Haste, 3 mana, 6/3 Trample and Haste. It has Saddle 2, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this creature unless it was saddled. There we go.
Flavor text Ride the Lightning. James Dalton Bell says, "This exists purely for the flavor text. It's not a very good card." Well,
Not the
hold your
worst one.
horses. Hold your horses, as we always
No, no,
say.
no. Tap
Want
your
to get a
horses and
creature?
attack. They're only around for a turn. We can't afford to hold them.
I think Ball Lightning with set mechanic
Yeah.
is perfectly valid and a fun way to go, "Right, I can remember what saddle is on
Mm.
this fairly simple card, even at rare, and that can help
Hmm.
me reinforce what I know
Mm.
about how saddle works on other cards," because it's like, "Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I'll tap 2 power of stuff to get this 6 power thing." Is the rate on this not going to be constructed playable? Sure, I definitely agree with that, and might the color limit it in limited possibly? That might
Yeah,
also be the case. There
that's
there's
true.
certain kind of play design tweaks to be made to
Yeah.
it, but I think the core of that as an idea of here's a fun way to make saddle into a lava axe
Mm.
is can be a useful game piece and can be a useful thing to print in a set for that kind of, helping reinforce things,
Hmm.
as I
Yeah, there's play value to this card. I guess maybe James is reacting to his own card in that, like, is this truly on the legendary level? Is this truly a rare that I'd be excited to open? Like, that's the part that's maybe a little hard to justify. But I think if this were a non-legendary at uncommon in some, 3-color set, where you actually like start to get to like a pretty cool card. Because I think one of the nice things about like a conditionally temporary ball lightning is that
Mhm.
it gives you a lot more options in terms of how you want to put the screws on your opponent. Because if
Sure.
you pay the saddle cost but attack with it, the opponent really has to block it, even if they can't block the whole thing. So it's
Mhm.
sort of like destroy a blocker and deal 4 to your opponent.
Sure.
And if they, if you're in a different situation where you don't care about that, you just want to attack with as many creatures as possible, it's just your 6 mana trample haste creature, and it's good
Yeah,
there too. Um, so we still have to solve the question of like, how do you have an environment where you're playing your 3-color aggro deck in draft? That's a little bit of a question, but that aside, the saddle adds something to this card.
absolutely. And if you can, you know, you top deck this on a
Oh
doubly
yeah,
empty board,
yeah.
and you're like, okay, well, and then you happen to top deck a bear or something. You're like,
Mm,
great, I play my bear, I play my thunder horse. I'm just gonna keep hitting you for 6 each turn, and maybe I'm okay with this. Maybe I have a 2/2 with defender or something. Maybe there's some combination of other saddle synergies that if you are attacking with this every turn, as you say, your opponent has a pretty strong incentive to try to block it, but then you're getting your 2 power back in the wager. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, James is always submitting like really tightly designed, tight power level, like really fair limited cards that like have a good place. And maybe it didn't hit James's bar, but I think both of us still saw a lot of potential and value in this card, uh, even if it isn't a 10 out of 10 James card. Uh, I still appreciate receiving that card, I guess.
Our last submission for today is from Just Nigel. It's Vur Martial Dragon. It's 4
Oh,
generic mana, a red and a white for a 3/4 legendary creature dragon mount. It's a rare for 6 mana. Has when Vur enters, create 3/1/1 white soldier creature tokens.
hmm,
And whenever a knight, soldier, or warrior you control saddles a mount, add red. Okay. And spend a red
hmm,
mana. Vur gets +1/+0 and gains flying until end of turn.
hmm,
It has saddle 0.
hmm.
So you can have a lot of saddling to make red mana. And this comes with 3/1/1s. So this
Yeah,
is probably going to be a 6/4 flyer if you want it to be kind of at
yeah,
will.
yeah. Yeah, a little bit of Cloud Goat Ranger was the old card that this is a
Sure.
little bit like, which was
Mhm,
enter, create 3 Kithkins, tap 3 Kithkins to give it +2 power and flying until end of turn. It's like a 3/3 giant.
mhm.
Ver has some similar vibes where you get 3/1/1s. If those 3 tap, they give 3 power and flying to their favorite dragon. The idea of like being able to tap it's sort of a little bit like the shield card that we saw, the shield counter card that we saw
Mhm.
from Andrew, where I'm sort of using mounts as a way to do like armory, sort of like visiting with my soldiers, having my soldiers contribute to something kind of thing. Um, and I guess maybe the flavor in this case, there's a little art description here of, or the art credit
Uh-huh.
is 3 soldiers riding a dragon into battle. So all 3 of them are hopping on the dragon, and that's why it has all that extra power.
Mhm. I think the other upside of, okay, I play this 6 mana spell and I can get 3 red mana back,
Hmm.
or potentially more if I have other like knight soldiers or warriors, that sort of rebate or refund or ramp for the following turn if I only want this to be a 4/4, or maybe even I keep it a 3/4 and I'm just all in focusing on mana. The ability to get mana in such a granular way for it, obviously this is a
Yeah.
6 mana
Hmm.
card compared to like, oh, it's not Goblin Prospect. One of the goblins that sacrifices goblins to make mana, Skirk Prospector? Is that it's something like that, you know what I
Mm.
mean? This is 6 mana instead of being like a 1 mana goblin or anything,
Yeah.
but you can get quite a lot of red mana out of this, and
Yeah.
sometimes being able to go from, "I have 6 mana on a turn," to, "I have 9 or 10 mana," or, "I have
Hmm.
12 mana on a turn,"
Hmm.
can really make a difference even if you're not spending it on the fire-breathing flying component.
Yeah, when you're just using your dragon as a engine to generate mana. I guess
Mhm,
it being 6 mana, a 6 mana engine would have to be like really, really, really good at being an engine.
mhm,
So this is a little bit more saying like, hey, technically you could go engine mode with me, but it's really about me. I'm the dragon. I want to attack. I want to fire breathe all over the place. So spend that mana on me. Though I
Yeah,
guess you almost get like a refund the turn you play this. Is that sort of what you're
exactly.
thinking? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that, like, it's a 6 mana card, but gives you 3 mana back,
Uh,
potentially even, like,
yeah,
immediately without even
yeah.
needing to, like, go into your attack phase and untap 3
Mm.
lands or anything.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that can mean I do this in Heat Shimmer. I mean, that probably isn't
Make copies of it. Yeah. Okay.
to get permanent tokens or whatever. But, if I have 4 tokens on the if I have 4 soldier knights or warriors or whatever, and I cast this for 6 mana, and now I'm able to add 7 mana, this 6 mana card also, like, accelerated me even the turn I played it.
Mhm.
That, like,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
sort of plays are possible if you want to be, like, chaining into, I don't know,
Mm.
a Dragon Storm or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a little bit more explosiveness than I gave it credit for. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like this could just be saddle one just to it doesn't need to call attention to itself, I guess. I don't know. How many zero power warriors do I have? I don't know.
Adrian Oakenshield is back at it again. But sadly
There you go.
can't cast a Boros Dragon in a Jund like deck.
Even a Dune has one power, so he could hop
Okay,
on
okay.
one power
In
dragon.
my brain, it didn't had 0, so I was like, "That's the settle 0 key."
um, yeah, this is a cool card. It's funny, like kind of details about the card that like change it from being a straightforward card into being an unusual card. Like whether that's like desired or not, like in a game design sense, like do I want this to be just like here's a card that's it's about me. I'm a Cloud Goat Ranger, but a cool dragon. I got a bunch of people riding me, compared to what you started to realize, which is like this is more maybe more of an engine-y thing where I enter and I immediately tap those soldiers to get 3 more mana to make a copy to do some other stuff. Um, to I don't know, flicker or some other thing going on. Like
Mhm.
it's kind of a funny tension of whether you want that or not, I guess. Like when this creates the 3/1/1s, I guess if you really wanted to stay about Ver, you could say creates 3 tapped 1/1s, and now we're back into the mode of like this is mostly about making your dragon cool, but makes the card worse. Do you want to make the card worse? I don't know. It doesn't have to be worse. Um, yeah, it's like an interesting gap there that I don't know what I would want out of the design of the card. I guess. I mean, it's a cool card regardless. I'm not trying to say that. Whether you want your card to be an engine or not, whether you want your card to have this like explosive, stormy aspect to it or not.
In defense of the saddle 0, which I
Hmm.
think we talked last episode about whether how that works mechanically, if we were to review it.
Yeah.
But if your opponent has 1 or more of Cumberstone, Dampening Pulse, Waker of
There you
Waves, Mind Whisker with Threshold, Azorius Skyguard, or Haunter of Night Vale, all of which have creatures your opponents control get -1, -0.
go.
Very
Mm,
specifically, can't be -1, -1, but if it's -1, -0, then your soldier tokens can still saddle
mm,
can still marshal this particular dragon.
hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exciting stuff.
Yeah. Fun card.
Thanks for the submission. Tim, any ones jump out to you from this crop of
Hmm.
legendary horses and non-horses?
Yeah, I think my two favorites. I think I talked a little bit about it earlier, but auxiliary otters, Brannock, the one that like permanently gains that extra power clause, extra powered number of creatures you control, that hit the
Mhm.
bonus points so hard, and it's just a solid card overall. I want to play it in draft. If I only have some nights, I'm still okay playing this. If I have a ton of nights, I'm feeling excited. If I want to make the weirdo commander deck, I get to do that too. All that was a really nice package for me, and it still felt like it's not too unfair at 1 mana. Like it still feels like a reasonable card. And then the other one, maybe kind of from that kind of commander lens too, the Larson card, Clarion Guide of the Thanes, the one that like when an attack's saddled, you get a land, and then if you saddle with knights, then you get to untap lands. That felt very commander compatible without being like just like a Giga House Unlimited. Like it fits it's fine in draft and fine in commander, but it's powerful in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I think that there are elements I liked about every card here.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed a lot of these submissions. I think the cream of the crop for me for this batch is Aegis Hoof Valorous Soul from Andrew. I
Mm.
think for the 2/4 that can give shield counters to the things that saddle it, I just think all of the elements of the card really mesh together in a
Mm.
way that kind of just there's like nothing I would change about it if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that it is definitely doing something new with Saddle, but I think something that I wouldn't be surprised to see if mounts are a kind of like vehicles, like we'll do once a year or less, but here it makes sense for the set. We're gonna do two rares or rare and an uncommon. This seems like a totally great, yeah, here's the rare that fits some of the story or things for this particular plane.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Love all submissions as always, though. Uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
And we are really excited for the submissions
Yeah.
for this month's design challenge for the month of April. April Fool Us Planar Chaos,
Mm.
where your challenge is to submit either a real card with the name, color, and any relevant creature types changed, or submit a custom card. Either way includes spoiler text, either with the real card name or revealing that it's a custom card with your
Mhm.
submission. And Tim and I will be both reviewing the cards and thinking about them the way we always do, but also guessing whether or not they're
Mhm.
real cards or
Mhm.
not.
Mhm.
And that is always really fun. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if you all can fool us, but make sure, that you color shift
Yeah.
the card if it is
Mhm.
a real one. We got some bonus points here, which are times spiral, like the mathematical thing times. Anyways, has X in the mana cost or in the card names. And the other
Mhm.
bonus point is future sight. The card has 3 lines or fewer of rules text.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of this challenge is if you're making up a card, it's making it plausible to fit in whatever error you're shooting for. Are you trying to make a card that reads like a 1995 card? Maybe it shouldn't have vigilance on it, like or ETBs didn't show up until like Mirage or so. So part of what you're doing, or if you're making a newer card, maybe the stats of the creature have to keep up with what a newer card might say. There's a lot of clues in here besides just like for some of these cards, between Juliet and I, we're just going to know the card, or we're going to be able to guess at the card. But for some of it, it's like a kind of a heuristic of what was actually possible, what's possible in a different color, and all that kind of stuff.
And how much is it like, okay, could this card have been real and I forgot about it?
Yeah,
Which
yeah, yeah,
certainly the case for, I think we
yeah.
we saw some like Kamigawa healer cleric, whatever
Mm.
sort of card.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm now in the mode where I'm like forgetting cards from like Amonkhet and original Kaladesh, like
Mhm, mhm.
like those kinds of cards I used to know really well, and a lot of those are starting to disintegrate for me. So yeah, that's part of what strategically what you're aiming for. It's like, what did the two hosts forget about in the last once we pass like a 5-year horizon or something like that?
And I think it also can be fun to reskin an existing card and
Yeah,
figure out like else could this be, especially if you are
yeah.
plane shifting, color shifting it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But these submissions will be due April 25th.
All right, yeah, looking forward to that.
So that's our podcast for this week. You can join our Discord with the link in the show notes. Anything you'd like to tell people about, Tim?
Nothing for me this week. Thank you for everyone for not only subjecting us to reading these many submissions, but also be willing to listen to 3 episodes of it. So I'm glad that people are so into listening to our feedback on design challenges that they kind of signed us all up for that many episodes.
Yeah. And we try to keep it fun,
Yeah,
interestingly critical
yeah,
design and,
yeah,
educational for all of us.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will start letting people know that this Memorial Day weekend,
Mm.
the 4th weekend in May, the Moonshot Network will be doing our annual charity stream.
Mm.
This year it's Moontropolis, which I
Oh,
am really excited to be very hard at work on both game design and graphic design for. Uh,
oh, nice.
so you will be hearing me talk a lot about that, but I wanted to signpost that doing a big streaming weekend, raising money for charity, and that will be fun near the end of May.
Yeah, Moonshot is sort of your the network that you're a part of a whole bunch of podcasts, but also streaming and also video
Mhm.
content, also all sorts of other stuff. And there's a lot of different separate shows, but then you also get together sometimes for some for some charity streams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great time. Last year was Moonaissance Fair,
Mm. Mhm.
and I think the year before that was Moongaritaville. Uh, so we're
Yeah. Similar
we're
sense of
we're
humor between the two, between Beacon and and Moonshot sometimes.
yeah, we're really getting there. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for joining us on the pod, and you can reach us in the Discord.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and always remember
No.